I was never the type to get scared easily. I grew up in the noisy suburbs of Atlanta, where honking horns and barking dogs were louder than silence. But after moving to Nashville for grad school, I started craving the opposite. Peace, quiet, a weekend without noise. That's how the idea came up. Me and 4 other friends decided to rent an Airbnb in a remote part of Georgia to celebrate Amelia's birthday. The cabin, found by Kat, was in the outskirts of a tiny town called Ellings Creek. The listing read, "Cozy cabin with mountain views, perfect for groups. 4 bedrooms, 2 floors, and a wraparound porch surrounded by towering pine trees." There were dozens of 5-star reviews, except for a few that mentioned the host being a little too attentive. We laughed it off. Just Southern hospitality, right? We arrived near dusk on Friday. Franklin appeared as soon as we parked. Tall, grey beard, small eyes, and a smile that lasted a little too long. He said he lived in a smaller cabin behind the main house, but wouldn't be a bother. "If you need anything, just holler," he said, looking at each of us for just a second too long. Inside, the cabin was beautiful. Stone fireplace, rustic furniture, scented candles, even a vintage record player. We drank wine, played cards, and laughed like old times. But near midnight, while the others slept, I stepped outside for some air. That's when I saw Franklin. He was walking slowly toward the woods with a flashlight, scanning the trees. I ducked behind the doorway. Maybe he was just checking on something. Maybe. The next day, we hiked a nearby trail. Franklin was nowhere in sight. We assumed he was working or running errands, but that evening during a drinking game, someone knocked at the door. Jess jumped. "Who the hell?" I peeked through the peephole. It was Franklin holding a basket. Hey," I said, opening the door halfway. He smiled. "Just thought you girls might want some snacks. Local jerky, trail mix, homemade cookies." "Oh, thanks, but we're good," I replied. "You sure?" His smile didn't fade. "We just ate, but that's really nice of you." He raised the basket again like he still wanted to hand it over, then slowly walked back to his cabin. I locked the door. "That was weird, right?" I asked. "Extremely," Lauren muttered. "Who brings snacks at 10 p.m? An hour later, we heard footsteps on the porch. Slow, precise. Someone was walking out there. I peeked through the curtain. Franklin stood by one of the porch beams, half hidden, watching us. He knocked once, then again, louder. I cracked the door. "What's going on?" I asked. "I heard something," he said. "Sounded like screaming." "We didn't scream. You sure?" His tone was flat now, dull. "We're fine," I said firmly and shut the door. I watched his shadow linger behind the curtain. We barely slept. Every creak of the cabin felt like a warning. The next morning I went down early and saw something strange. A glint of metal on the bookshelf. I got closer. A tiny black lens. A camera. I called the others. We tore the place apart. One in the bedroom disguised as a hook. One in the kitchen clock. One, God help us, in the bathroom vent. "He's been watching us," Kat whispered. "Since we got here," Jess added. We packed in silence. No one cared about checkout rules, no confrontation, just fear. Keys on the counter, bags in the car. As we backed out, I looked to the porch. There he was, watching. Not waving, not smiling, just staring. As soon as we had signal, I filed a report with Airbnb. Screenshots, camera locations, timestamps. We posted a detailed review from a throwaway account. We never heard back. 2 weeks later, the listing was gone. Sometimes I wonder how many people he watched, or if those cameras stayed on, even when no one was renting. I needed some time alone. After the end of my engagement, every corner of my apartment felt suffocating. It was my therapist who suggested, go somewhere isolated, breathe. So I searched for an Airbnb, somewhere away from the city but still within reach of civilization. That's how I found the house in Cedar Hollow, a secluded gated community about an hour outside Pittsburgh. The listing was straightforward. Modern home with forest view, total privacy, perfect for relaxing. 4 bedrooms, 2 floors, and a basement with laundry and storage area. The photo showed a sleek house with tall windows and a stunning view of the trees. The host, Donna, replied quickly, "You'll have the whole house, no direct neighbors." At the time, that felt like a bonus. I arrived on a Friday afternoon. The sun was already dipping behind the pines. There were no cars in the other driveways, no sound, just wind. The house was beautiful, smelled like fresh wood. Fully equipped kitchen, everything spotless, but something felt too quiet. The first night went fine. I made some pasta, opened wine, watched a bad movie, and went to bed early. But around midnight, I woke up to a sharp noise like something falling downstairs. I walked around, checked everything, all normal. Then I noticed the basement door was slightly open. During check-in, Donna had mentioned the basement was available to use, but for some reason it had been secured with a chain. Now the chain was hanging loosely on the knob. I stepped down a few stairs. The air smelled musty. I used my phone flashlight to light the way. The switch was broken. When I reached the bottom, I realized the basement wasn't just a laundry space. It was huge, cold, and packed with boxes. Old wooden crates stacked against the wall, labeled with names or numbers, some in faded marker, some in chalk. The next day I couldn't stop thinking about the basement. I went back. I opened the first box. Inside, black and white photos, all of children. Some smiling, some serious, none labelled. The second box held old toys. Glass-eyed teddy bears, a rusted metal car, a cloth doll with its mouth sewn shut. The third had children's books, all marked with names on the inside cover. Benjamin, Sophie, Liam, Carla. The names repeated in other boxes. There were more than 20. Toward the back I found something worse, an old wardrobe locked with a simple hook latch. Inside, hanging on thin wire hangers, were children's clothes, some very old, some more recent, none with store tags, and all, without exception, folded as if never worn, like a collection. There, in that darkness, a chill ran through me, not from the cold, but from instinct. Something was deeply wrong. Just as I was leaving the basement, I found a smaller box containing an old tape recorder and a cassette. Curious, I brought it upstairs. I found a vintage radio in the living room with a tape deck, slipped it in, pressed play. At first just static. Then a woman's voice. "Benjamin, are you listening? Mommy doesn't like it when you do that. Mommy needs you to be quiet now. Be quiet. Forever." I stopped the tape. The sound stuck in my throat. I put the chain back on the basement door and locked it. I didn't sleep that night. In the morning I messaged Donna. "Hi. Sorry to ask, but about the basement. I found some strange boxes." Her reply came in seconds. "The basement isn't included in the rental. Please keep the door locked. It's just old family storage. Nothing you need to see. Nothing I need to see, but I had seen it. I went out during the day, tried to distract myself. When I returned at dusk, something was off. In the hallway mirror on the second floor, someone had taped an old photograph with black tape. A child, dirty face, wearing the same coat I had seen hanging in the basement wardrobe. On the back, in pencil, Benjamin, 1979, last seen. I didn't put that there. I hadn't touched the mirror. I packed immediately, left the house before dark. On the drive, I sent Donna one last message. What happened to Benjamin? She never replied. The next day I checked the listing on Airbnb. It was gone. No reviews, no record. Like it had never existed. Sometimes I wonder if I was the last guest in that house, or just another name in a box. I just wanted a warm, quiet and comfortable place to work for a week. I'm a freelancer and was finishing an important project, so I booked an Airbnb in Chicago, in a small residential building near Lakeview. The apartment seemed perfect. A modern one-bedroom, fully equipped kitchen, fast Wi-Fi, and best of all, quiet atmosphere, peaceful building as the listing said. The host's name was Adam and everything went smoothly. Codes sent, instructions clear. The building had 4 floors. I'd be on the 3rd. I arrived on a Monday afternoon. It was snowing and the sky already looked dim. The apartment was just like the photos, clean, nicely decorated, and with double windows facing the snow-covered rooftops. I settled in, made some tea, opened my laptop and got to work. Everything was going well until night fell. Around 11 p.m, while reviewing the project text, I heard the first noise, a continuous scratching sound coming from the right-hand wall, then 3 dry knocks, tap, 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 and silence. I figured it was the plumbing, or maybe the heater, but then it came back, louder this time. I slid my chair closer to the wall, pressed my ear against it. It was the sound of someone singing, very low. A melody with no words, just soft, murmured hums, deep, rhythmic, almost ritual-like. I stepped into the hallway. The apartment next door, 3B, had its door closed. No light underneath, no noise when I opened the hallway door. I went back inside, trying to ignore it. At 3:17 a.m., I woke up to a muffled scream. Not loud, but close, like someone screaming with their mouth covered. I jumped out of bed, froze, waiting. But it didn't happen again. I fell asleep with the lights on. The next day I asked the building's janitor, a grey-bearded man named Rudy, who lived in 3B. Oh, 3B? That's Mr. Hallman, been here for years, hardly ever leaves. Bit odd. Wears a hat even inside, but he's harmless, just a loner. Harmless. But that night the sounds came back, this time more distinct, shuffling footsteps behind the wall, like someone walking barefoot in circles. Then another sound, like distorted children's laughter, but coming from an adult voice. I recorded it on my phone. The audio came out a bit garbled, but you could hear it. I sent it to a friend of mine who works with audio design. She replied with just one sentence. There's something really wrong with this. On the 4th day, I went to take out the trash and noticed something that froze me. The door to 3B was slightly open, just a few inches. I couldn't resist. I called, "Mr. Hallman?" Nothing. I stepped closer and gently pushed it. What I saw made me go still. The apartment was empty, no furniture, no bed, no dishes, just dust, bare walls. And in the centre of the living room, a chair, facing the wall that's shared with my bedroom. On the wall, written in black chalk, "Listening is the purest form of summoning." I ran out, called the host. "Hey Adam, do you know who lives in 3B? He hesitated. "Actually, that unit's been vacant since November. The last guest reported weird noises too, sounds, but the unit is empty. Why?" I hung up without answering. I could have left, but for some reason, pride, exhaustion, stubbornness, I decided to stay until Friday. On Thursday night, the sound started earlier. Around 9 p.m, the melody came back, but now accompanied by whispers in another language. No language I recognized. I hid in the bathroom with the lights off and recorded everything. At 2 a.m, a metallic ticking began, like something counting time. Tick, tick, tick. Then knocks on my door. 3, then 3 more, and 3 more. 9 knocks in total. I looked through the peephole. Nothing. But there was a note taped with black tape, handwritten. "Now that you've heard it, it's inside." I left the next day without looking back, drove to a cheap hotel and finished the project in the lobby. 2 weeks later, I got an email from Airbnb. "Thanks for your feedback. The previous guest also reported unexplained noises. We've temporarily removed listing 3A while we investigate." I never listened to the audio from that night again. I deleted it. But sometimes, when the apartment I live in now gets too quiet, I put my ear to the wall, and the sound is still there, faint, rhythmic, and waiting for someone to listen again.